What's up? We're back here at it again, Wilderness Explorers. We are in Kentucky, close to Lexington, Kentucky, on a trail through the woods. Hiking, it's about like 2.5 mile loop. So we're getting close to waterfall, which is kind of like the first main thing on the trail. It's right here on my left as we're walking mostly like counterclockwise, I think. So there's also a mill, or this is the remnants of a mill that a waterfall has now formed around, but it's really pretty, and you can see some of the parts of the mill that are still left. So here's the view. This waterfall is really cool. A couple of the things I really like here is the water is coming straight out of the cliff of the mountain. So it kind of creates like this spring effect, like it's coming out of nowhere, and then it's loads of it, so all flowing over the rocks super evenly. The bricks from the old mill that was here are still stacked up in several areas, so it's really cool to see where the mill actually was and how that all would have worked when it was still operating quite a few years ago. The long, hard cut river bank helps also solidify where this was, and you can see that super clearly here at the bottom of the thing, just a long straight path where the river cut and where the mill would have sat to use the water to help grind many grain that grew often in this area. There's moss that has now covered many of the rocks, so very beautiful right now. Some of it's in bloom, and that's gorgeous to see in this part of the hike. Lastly, in the creek here are still standing some cut rock, and many over here to the left of me. So clearly mill here, and that's super cool to see the big impact that it had on this area and how parts of it are still left and create for this beautiful natural scenery. So we are about 3/10 of a mile into the hike, and we get across this lovely creek we've been following for most of the hike. It's a beautiful creek. It's actually a lot wider here than it is in many other areas, but not super deep, but lots of water moving through it at different paces, but quite beautiful nonetheless here as I'm maneuvering my way over some rocks. Lots of things like to grow in this creek. There's lots of algae and seaweed, along with water spiders and sea slugs, or freshwater slugs, because this isn't actually salt water. But it's just a beautiful part of this hike that we've been walking along. We're in late March, if you're wanting to come here for some beautiful scenery. The trees have started to leaf, but many of them do not, just a lot of the lower shrubs like this one over here. So it's quite nice this time of year. It's about 72 degrees with just a gentle breeze blowing a lot of the time, so perfect conditions for a hike here at the end of March. The forest floor here is filled with many young marks of spring, some early blooming violets. Dutchman's breeches is also rising from the ground, and spring beauty has launched some early blossoms. The trees, lots of oak, some white barked sycamore at the top, along with many young buckeyes, like possibly this one, starting to grow soon. So we've been taking our hike. We're now maybe 0.4, 0.5 into the hike, but we've come across a creek crossing here. So the original creek crossing doesn't actually have any stones on it, and I don't really want to take my shoes off right now, so we're gonna have to find a place farther upstream. This is the original creek crossing where the path right here comes in and leads to the creek. But see, we don't have any rocks to go over, so we're gonna have to cut through some of this underbrush, very light underbrush, to walk through this creek. So I think that'll be right here. I got a little wet, but we'll be fine. Pretty good, a little challenging at that spot. Maybe pick a spot farther upstream next time. So we're here at the end of the Shawnee Run Trail, part of this hike. You can either turn left here walking out and take the Chickapin Trail through the woods and go back to the trailhead, but we're deciding to take this kind of more grassy approach with some natural forest and maybe restoration area here to the right that they had cleared out a little bit. If you can see that. So we're just gonna take to this just straight path to the trailhead back. It was a nice kind of walk through the woods. The creek followed us, or river. I think it's actually called the Shaker Creek because we're here on Pleasant Hill, where a lot of the Shakers had a large community. There were about 440 of them within like 16 years of them being here, so they had quite a nice size. But the Shaker Creek ran along a lot of this Shawnee Trail that we were on. It was quite nice. However, the trail is also used for horses, so you might come across horses. We did not come across any horses today, but there were signs that there were horses, some horse poop laying around on the trail in a couple spots, so that was quite nice. I mean, not really nice, but a little unpleasant actually. But we're just taking this nice long grassy trail, no mulch or gravel or anything. The trails through the woods where some weed cloth had been laid down, but mostly gravel put on top of them, so light gravel most of the way. Rolling hills, not much elevation, just a little bit there at the end to get up back to the top, because we're kind of in the bottom of a valley where the creek was running. But other than that, super smooth, fairly light. There were 2 or 3 creek crossings, some of which did not have super easy crossings per se, so if you can't walk very well or a little unstable, some of those might have been a little challenging. So 2 of them weren't like super easily marked, so we kind of had to find our own way around them, which is a little difficult. I got my shoe wet on one of the crossings, and I often think that I'm pretty sure-footed. So just so you know that, it's like the end of March, so not a lot of water even too, but still the crossings were super easy. They weren't hard per se, but definitely something to take note of. Other than that, I'd give this hike like 4.8 stars probably for like a 2.5 mile hike or 2 mile hike. We're at about 1.6 or 1.5, so just a little bit left to go back to the trailhead where our van was parked, and they're setting up some other stuff for an event this weekend. So I will talk to you guys in the next episode of the Wilderness Explorers. See you later.